Hello and welcome. My name's Tom Short. Our ministry is Campus America, formerly Tom Short Campus Ministries. We're going to talk about going to Israel. Have you ever wanted to do that? I'll tell you, it is the trip of a lifetime. And we're so pleased that we have been able to take quite a few people to see the Holy Land. And although we haven't been able to go 4 of the last 5 years due to the COVID first and the war second, we think our trip's going to be back on again this next year. And so we'd like to talk about it. I have a special guest with me today, Matt Sherman, who is my partner in this. He helps me organize. Well, let's just put it this way. He does all the organization for the trip. And we have a great time in Israel. So Matt and I are going to share a little bit with you about what this is. And I'm hoping you might be interested and you might want to tour with us to Israel. So Matt, welcome to our podcast. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself quickly?
Thank you so much, Tom. Janine and I, my wife and I, are forever grateful to you, your mentorship, your leadership. You've been there since day one when we were first Christians, and you've been so instrumental in our life, our family's life. It's an honor and privilege to do the tours with you. And long story short is, as a hobby years ago, Janine and I started running tours. We started gathering people together and collecting people the way someone else collects stamps, collecting memories and adventures. And we're excited about this tour. And we've done over 30 tours in 7 countries around the world, but the Israel tour is by far the best tour that we do.
So let me tell you how this got started. Back, I believe it was 2017, I went on a tour of Israel. Now, I had wanted to go on a tour of Israel for years, at least 10 or 15 years. I had wanted to go to the Holy Land. To be honest, my wife was a little nervous. She'd read certain headlines that, scare us out of going there. And she was thinking, if we go, are we going to come back? Will we be alive? Well, she finally realized that we see all these other people going, and all of them came back alive, and she felt we can go. So we went for an anniversary trip. And we had a wonderful time. We were with friends. There were some people there we didn't know, but a lot of our friends were with us. We had a wonderful time. But maybe it's just something about my personality. I don't know. Maybe it's something of dealing in an area of my giftedness. But I came away thinking, this is a trip of a lifetime. Friends went with us and they thought, we'll do this one time in our life. And I thought to myself, I could do better. I could put together something better. Not only that, one of the guys on the tour, he came up to me and believe it or not, out of the blue, he had the same suggestion. He said, Tom, you should do some tours like this. Now, I'd given a couple of messages. I think that's what motivated him to say that. And he told me, he said, do you know Matt Sherman does tours? And he said, I should put the two of you in touch with one another. Now, I knew Matt from many, many years past. I'd met him when I was preaching on the campus at the University of Florida years ago. But I don't think I was aware he organized tours. Well, anyway, we got together next time I was in Gainesville and talked about the potential. And one thing led to another. And sure enough, Matt took it from there. He is an organizer. He is a man of excellence. He has put together one spectacular program tour that our goal has always been, it's going to be a trip of a lifetime. We want to make it the best it could possibly be. And I really believe, I feel good that we have achieved that. And I'm grateful to Matt for working with me and for that brother who made that suggestion and connected us and gave us that inspiration. So Matt, thanks for your involvement there and all the hard work you do to put into this. So
I appreciate that. I love working with you, and we have the same heartbeat, and our wives move us along in that direction as well. How do you make it better? And I think we have a heck of a tour, and then Janine will tell me the things I did wrong, and I appreciate that ministry so much. But but we're in a very special place now because God is responding to the work in the service, and people are being touched by the Spirit on this tour. It's been very powerful. It's been life-changing for some people.
So one thing about Matt is a Messianic Jew, and he's always wanted to go to Israel and had never gone before this. So he did put his heart and soul into it. This was to him, the chance to lead a tour to Israel was a dream come true for him, and he wasn't about to let it be something mediocre or average. And so together we've worked well. In fact, it's interesting because this gets in what do we do, and one of the I saw a previous tour guest with us just a couple weeks ago, And this was from a couple years later, and he was still raving about how much he appreciated the tour. And one thing he talked about was how Matt and myself and Ishai work together, and we each have different gifts that work in such a way as to make it a tremendous trip. Matt, why don't you tell him who Ishai is?
Ishai Norel is a third generation Messianic Jew living in Israel, meaning his grandparents were there at the very beginning. He lived in the only place in Israel that was what we call a kibbutz or a commune, but was for Messianic Jews. And the nation of Israel kindly decided to put them on the border with Jordan. So his family grew up with the sound of gunfire. They put them in a dangerous place, and today they're in a place of blessing. So Ishai was born to do this work, and he loves this work. And all the guides in Israel go to a 2 year guide college, but Ishai really excels in his extensive experience. And he loves our group because he might handle 200 groups a year. And what they say in Israel is, oh, you're Catholic, you go this way, you're Protestant, you go this way, and then you make a turn. Ishai loves that you and I, Tom, work with him to put together a custom itinerary. That's we're trying to avoid being in buildings and churches. We do some of that. We're where Jesus walked, we're where Jesus taught. So he loves working with us. And he's going to be working very hard, 8, 10 hours a day, leading this tour and helping people understand the length and the depth and the breadth of the Bible in Israel. It's an almost impossible job. He does a great job.
We've come to really love Ishai. He is a born again Christian. He has, if you're a born again or evangelical Christian, you will connect well with him. Again, some of the guides there are of a different, they're the Christian faith, they're the Christian believers, but they, for instance, think there's great, what they want to show you all the church buildings, for instance, or they want to show you all the things that have happened since the last couple of hundred, last couple thousand years. We like to focus on what happened when Jesus was there. And as much as we can, we go to those places. Now, a lot of them have churches, a lot of those places have a church built over them. And so that's fine. We look at the church, we're impressed by it, but we want to ask what happened at the time of Jesus, not what happened 300, 400, 500 years later when they built a church there, as interesting as that is. And I think Ishai understands that. And so our focus is to study the life of Jesus, to try and connect with what happened at that time in history. John Maxwell once said, and I've taken this to heart, he said, if you want to do great things in life, visit great places, meet great people, read great books. And I can't think of a greater place to go than Israel, where the Lord Jesus Christ walked the earth. We see some of the other places where John the Baptist, for instance, did his baptizing, or where we see some other the Old Testament saints, Elijah, where he challenged the prophets of Baal, for instance. But we focus on the greatest person of all, Jesus Christ. And we want to study his life while we're there and walk where he walked, learn what he learned. And that's why we believe it is not just an academic tour, but it's a life-changing tour. It's a time where we want a good mixture of academic understanding, geography, history, but also the devotional side of applying these things in life. And I think this is what this one point fellow is pointing out is that Matt, Ishai, and I, as we share together, we each have different gifts, different abilities in what we can share and what we can say and how it can benefit you. So, Matt, you're a pretty smart guy. And Matt, by the way, I just don't hate to say it. I just tell you, Matt's one of the funnier people you will ever meet. And by the end of the trip, you will be splitting a gut at some of the instructions Matt's giving us or some of the comments he's making as we ride on the bus from place to place. Who knows? We might even have one night of a comedy night like we did once. It's a lot of fun. So Matt, what's a day look like? What's a day look like in our well, maybe I'll let you add a little bit to the overview of the trip. I talked about the focus on the life of Christ. Give us a sense of the overview of the trip, the places we go, and so forth.
That's a great question, Tom. We could talk about that for the rest of the cast because, as you know, there's many reasons people go on a tour, and I'd like to mention a few. I mean, as you said, I'm a Messianic Jew. So we're on the Temple Mount. I'm where Abraham sacrificed Isaac 3,800 years ago. And we think we know where the spot is. I'm at the Holy of Holies. I'm where Solomon knelt and burnt 1,000 cattle, 1,000 animals to the glory of God. And he said, God, when we're scattered all over the world, remember this place and we'll face this place and bring us back here. And we're back there. And the Jews got it back. There's so much history on this one spot. I'm where Josiah was made king at 8 years old. So some people say, I want to get into the Old Testament. We're hitting amazing sites, as you said. You mentioned Mount Carmel, where Elijah obliterated the prophets of Baal. Uh, but we're also in the same place where Jesus took the cord of thongs and said, what are you doing? This is my Father's house. So we see incredible sights in the life of the Messiah, but others are coming because they're missional. And I've been surprised at the number of young people, for example, who've been to other countries and they go, Israel's amazing. I'm going to be Christians from all over the world. They go. You mentioned some things that people like who are nerds like me. Incredible archaeology, geology, geography, and history every day on this tour. I would say there's one reason to go on the tour. And if I could tell a couple of quick stories, they're really all one story. And they're really about what we're doing in Israel and what we're doing intentionally in Israel, if I could.
Yeah.
Tom, one of the most significant things we do on the tour is, as you know, we rent a private charter boat and we get out on the Sea of Galilee. And there are distractions because it's very beautiful there. But Tom, you give a great message there. We're worshiping with worship music. People love this part of the tour. It's just our group on the boat. One day I'm on the back deck and a brother asked me a question. It was really a geography question. And this really highlights what we do. And so I started turning in a semicircle around the boat because you could see all of Galilee, you could see the Galilee. And I said, oh, that ledge right there is where Jesus gave the Great Commission. That's the road we were on yesterday. That's the road to Asia, Africa, and Europe. That's the Great Commission road. That's Peter's mother-in-law. That's the Sermon on the Mount. Remember, we were there yesterday. That's where Jesus called the 12. That's where he cast out the demoniac. That's where the pigs went in the sea. That's where he cursed the cities. And I'm turning around a circle and he started crying. He said, Matt, I've done things in my life and I deal with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And even as a Christian, I've dealt with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. But today, right now, I feel forgiven. Tom, he said that because we're on the Sea of Galilee where Jesus said, Peter, you get out of that boat and you walk towards me. And the second story, if you think about it, if your listeners think about it, it's really the same story. I'm home about a month after the tours. It's so exciting. I'm podcasting. We're working on the computer just where I am now, talking to you now. And my wife Janine's in the other room and I hear her make a noise like, oh, and I go running to the other room. Are you hurt? Are you okay? Did something happen? She goes, no, no. I'm in the Gospels and then I'm in the Gospels. She said, I suddenly went back to where we were with Tom and Israel. And I was standing where Jesus said these words and I could feel it and I can hear it. And I was there. I'm in the Gospel because I went to Israel. The third story is actually my story because Tom, we're going to go to where most evangelical scholars think Golgotha was and where the tomb was, where most evangelicals believe Jesus died and rose. We go to a hill that's in a back alley in Jerusalem that looks like a skull, and we think Jesus died there for the sin of the world. We do a prayer walk there they're going to lead. It's going to be awesome and dynamic. And you lead the breaking of bread there. You're calling on the elders to pray. We're singing songs. It's a solemn place. It's a peaceful place. But one day it hits me like a brick because I'm sitting in the back and I'm eating the matzah and juice. And one day, Tom, it hit me so hard. It was so emotional. There are 100 million Christians this Sunday morning breaking bread all around the world. But I'm about 50 feet from where Jesus may have walked out and said, Mary, don't delay me. I've not ascended to the Father. That's the Israel tour. All those three stories are one story. People go to encounter God. And as you know, we're very intentional, Tom. Every single day in the itinerary, there's several wow moments in God's word. And we are constantly having people saying, at minimum, great tour. You guys did a great job. The food was great. The hotels were great. At maximum, this was life-changing. Fallow ground has been broken my heart. I'm recommitted. Tom, we go to over 80 Bible sites on this tour. And some of them have one focus, and some of them are places where a dozen things happen in the Bible, and people are digesting this for years. It's just a wonderful tour. Who wouldn't want to go on that tour?
Matt, you're making me want to go. I have, I have fallen in love with Israel.
Hmm.
I really missed, as a matter of fact, I'm seriously, I've got tears in my eyes this minute as we're talking. I, I fell in love with Israel when we couldn't go for 2 years because of the COVID. I really missed it. I found myself, believe it or not, at that kind of time of uncertainty, and I want some peace and some stability. You know where I wanted to go to Israel. I felt that's the place where I experienced what is known as shalom, peace from God. And I, it's kind of like, I, everything's shut down. It's uncertain. I'd like to be in Israel.
Yeah.
And even these last 2 years, I've thought, even though we can't have let a tour there due to some of the, the unsafety and the, I thought I want to go there on my own. I've missed it. I've fallen in love with that place. And Matt, reminding me of these stories just makes me want to go again. The Sea of Galilee, and I think you might have forgotten to mention there Golgotha and the garden. That's where we walk in the very, maybe you said it, I missed it. That's the very, we walk into the tomb where we believe Jesus was buried. Can you
Sure.
imagine that?
It's
Standing,
unbelievable.
standing in the tomb, and you don't have long to be in there. You got, 30 seconds maybe, but to stand in the very place where we believe Jesus Christ was buried and now it's empty. And I thought to myself, this is where it began. What we preach to the world, our hope, the message of Christ obviously is awesome, but the resurrection is what sets him apart. And to stand in there was an incredible victory. We go spend a lot of time in Jerusalem, and throughout there, we go from Jerusalem, we go to Bethlehem, we go out to the Dead Sea, we go to the Sea of Galilee, where there was the baptism spot. In Israel, there are two baptism spots where you can go to. One is far more friendly to tourists. The other is the actual spot where Jesus was baptized. Can you imagine that? And a lot of people choose to get baptized again. I'm not against doing that, but to have a baptism on this trip in the very waters, at the very spot, probably within 100 feet, one way or the other, of where John the Baptist actually baptized Jesus. Imagine that experience, going to great places. So we do these things. We go through Jerusalem. We see these the places where Jesus the had the Last Supper, where the Mount Zion. We go to the Temple Mount. We go to the Matt, help me out. Where the Mount of Olives. We walk down through the Mount of Olives, where
Yeah.
the Garden of Gethsemane. All these places in the Bible, and you comment about how Janine had her experience of I was there. You know, I love my pastors. I love our church, and they're good teachers. But we went through the Gospel of Matthew after I'd been there, and I just kept. I can't tell you how many times I said, "Wow, where you were teaching today, where you were teaching in the Word, I was there." And oh, if you could have been there, your teacher was wonderful. You'd take it up a notch if you could have put yourself in that very place. And so I want to say, if you're a pastor and you want to teach the word, I think you ought to figure out a way to get here, to have your church help you get here, whatever it takes. Recruit a team. We offer a pastor's discount if you recruit a team to come with you, because we want pastors to come here. I believe it'll enrich your teaching and message to your congregation. We'd like to help you get there. Anyway, Matt, that's the overview. Give us what's the day look like? Do we get up early? Or do we eat? When do you go to bed? Give us a little background on
Oh
what we do.
my, you said the magic words. You said, do we eat? Those are my three favorite words because to me, I've redacted it in my mind to you and I intentionally are trying to do two things every day. If we do these two things, tour's great. Phenomenal travel experience because we do have a really good tour and these slices of God's word. Okay. So we're going to try and let you rest up and get over that jet lag. And if you're little, whatever, we're going to get on that bus. And we don't go very early, but we're going to have an 8 to 10 hour tour day every day. But that's just the beginning because the travel experience is solid. I'd love to talk about that first one. We stay at some of the best hotels in Israel with amazing food. So think about a cruise ship, that much food, but really exciting things you'd only see there. Every breakfast, every dinner is both American cuisine and Middle Eastern cuisine, whatever you like or both. I do want to take a moment and talk about desserts because I get concerned for people's safety. As you know, we want to be safe on the trip. And I make it my duty to try all six desserts every night to make sure they're safe for human consumption. Because how can you let the tour guests eat if you haven't tried it? And I'm very committed, and I'll get down to the bottom of the dessert, the very end of the dessert, just to make sure it's okay. Now, it's a thankless job, okay? It's a solemn duty. But when I'm done, I can now relax because it's an unlimited buffet and go back just to my favorite 5 or 6 desserts again. And of course, I'm joking, but I'm really not because the food is great at these hotels. And after that 8 hour tour day, a lot of people want to play cards with someone they met from Russia in the lobby or have a Bible study. But Janine and I are ready for a walk. Some are ready for a walk. And we say, do you want to go up to the top of Mount Scopus and see Jerusalem all lit up at night? Do you want to go down to the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall? Somebody says, well, we were there this morning. I said, I know, but tonight's the Sabbath. There's going to be hundreds of young people singing and dancing. You'll never forget it. Do you want to go? After all, our hotel is 10 minutes from the old city of Jerusalem. Let's go down. And we walk along the Sea of Galilee because that's where our other hotel is. We go to a shopping mall. We go to where Great Sage taught. You have such a phenomenal travel experience. As you know, the Tom Short group is the first at dinner, the last to leave. The waiters are literally saying sternly, get out. We need to clean the dining room. Why? Because it's not a church trip. It's not a church tour. It's a dozen churches coming with different people from all over the country where you've ministered. You make lifelong friends on the tour. Now, when you combine the lifelong friendships and the fabulous travel experience with these slices of God's word, it's a very powerful day. So there's one place I'm thinking of I'd love to tell you about. I'm not sure I can get all the information out. There's so much that happens at this one place. I don't even know if I should talk about it.
Well, don't leave us hanging.
Okay, I'm glad you asked. I set you up for that. No, Tom is a place I'm looking forward to going to. I'm dying to go. And I can't believe this because it'll be my fourth time, your fifth time. You know what I'm talking about, Caesarea Maritima. This is an entire city that Herod the Great built to his architectural glory. Let me try and break it down for the listeners and the watchers in just a couple minutes. First of all, at the entrance is a sign. It says, I, Pontius Pilate, dedicate this site to the glory of Herod and the glory of Caesar. And so-called academics for the last 30 years have said, the New Testament's garbage and Pontius Pilate's a myth. Tom, I stuck my finger in the hole. I stuck my finger in the letters and I rubbed Pontius Pilate's name because he was there dedicating that spot. I stood where Pontius Pilate was. That's mind-blowing, okay? Then we go down to the Sea Palace because Herod the Great, who killed the infants in Bethlehem, he ordered his architects under penalty of death not to put his palace on the sea the way you and I would if we had a palace. He said, put it in the sea. As you know, he said, build it in the ocean, okay? Paul the Apostle had the run of the place for 2 years. He almost persuaded Herod Agrippa II to become a Christian there, and Agabus came and prophesied that he'd be bound and go to Jerusalem. And Paul was busy because he was hanging out with Philip the Evangelist, one of the 7 deacons who was there and lived there. And then you're going to take us from the Sea Palace, Tom, to Herod's amphitheater. It's one of 2 that Herod built on the site. Why are we there? Because Peter came there through a vision, led Cornelius to Christ. This is the gospel going to Gentiles, and now the gospel's going from Judea and Samaria to the ends of the earth. In this spot where we're standing, you then take us to the bowl of this amphitheater, just like the Colosseum in Rome. You've been, I've been, but it's pristine. You can see everything. Sometimes there's archaeologists working there. We've seen them there. We hear about it, the history. I run to the top and take a picture, a selfie. You're going to gather us at the bottom at the podium and the lectern. And there's 2 things happening there. One is you're going to lead us. Everyone wants to go on this tour, believe me. You're going to lead us in a message, an inspirational message, and singing. May the Holy Spirit give us power and fill us as we bring the gospel to the nations. And it went from that spot. But I'm going to stand on a little podium that's slightly raised. I am literally standing on a little square that Agrippa the First stood on. And according to Acts 12 and Josephus, he was speaking eloquently. And Josephus says he's wearing literal silver and gold. He has his kingly veils and he has metal in them. He's wearing silver and gold and the sun comes out. People can't look at him. He's like a sci-fi being. He's shining. He's speaking eloquently. He's making the peace between the Lebanese and the Israelites. He was their food supply. And they proclaimed him a god because he was so magnificent and eloquent. Acts 12 says he didn't give the glory to Jehovah God and God struck him dead with intestinal parasites. Where'd they carry him to? The Sea Palace, where we were just standing 5 minutes ago. Where did God strike him down? On the podium I'm standing on while I'm praying with you, Tom, for the Spirit to fill me, to make me a better person, a better witness, a better man. I'm standing where God struck down the king. But we're not done because you're going to take the group to the Oval where the gladiatorial races went. And where Paul and Agrippa watched the race. And you're going to give a great message there. It's fabulous that we're to finish this race well. Why? Many leaders don't. And you're going to tell us to finish our Christian lives well. Why is it doubly impactful? Well, you're anointed. You're giving a great message. We're all excited. It's impactful because this is the race that Paul was watching when he said, don't run for that crown. It falls apart. Run for an imperishable crown that Christ will give you. I have a piece of marble behind me because my wife knows I collect stuff. She goes, do you want a piece of marble from the bleachers? A piece of marble came off. I said, do I want to take home a piece of marble from the bleachers that Herod the Great built so that Paul could sit where I'm sitting like I'm listening to Tom and say, run the race? Yeah, I'll take that home. I'll take another one home for the friend who I gave it to him that introduced us to start this tour. And we're still not done because people go to the Mediterranean Ocean, they splash around in it, and I have pictures every year, you've seen them, of young people dancing around with the ocean spray coming over them for two reasons. They're missional, they want to go to the ends of the earth, and they've never seen the Mediterranean Sea. They were actually at the spot where the gospel went out. Now, we've walked around Caesarea Maritima. You're leading us. Ishai's sharing. Okay? We've been on the footsteps of who? Paul, Peter, Cornelius, Agabus, Herod Agrippa the second, Herod the Great, Pontius Pilate, and Eusebius, who led the church in the 4th century. That was the center of Christianity. How long does this take on the tour, is my question. An hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if we're watching the beautiful movie that they show there. Why is that, Tom? Because we're going to go to 5 or 6 other places. We have to go up to the mountain where Elijah obliterated the prophets of Baal and stand at the very spot where he sent his servant 7 times. We know the spot. He sent his servant 7 times to go find the cloud that was coming, that ended the drought, that brought the rain. That's our day. Every day on tour, there's so much going on. My mind is just, Tom, I have failed to mention that Paul had a trial there with Governor Felix, and Ananias the high priest was there. I'm in the Acts. I'm in the Gospels. It's been so meaningful to me. I'm in the Word when I'm in Israel because we're very purposeful about it and we draw your attention to it. And then God touches us, the Spirit touches us. It's an incredible tour. There's so much to learn. I want to tell everybody who's listening, you know this, you're going to say this, Tom. We don't expect you to take notes. If you want to journal, that's beautiful. If you want to sketch, Janine and Roz will sketch. That's great. But we're going to send you home with about 200 pages of guides that we wrote with all the scriptures, all the places, because you're going to go home and unpack this for years. And the only reason someone doesn't go on the tour is the I have to's. I've had a pastor tell me, I have to be here. I can't leave my church for 11 days. I can't take off 11 days. If you have to do that, you probably need a sabbatical. Come to Israel with us. You're going to go home and be fired up, and your sermon's going to be changed for years, just as you said, Tom.
All, all,
That's a small
all,
slice of our day.
all of that he shared from Caesarea Maritima is, we spent about 2 hours there. That's the last stop we have before we have a farewell dinner and then head to the airport and head back home. And if you're watching here on YouTube, behind me is the aqueduct built by the Romans, and there we are in Caesarea Maritima, and that's part of the group. And I want to comment here briefly about who comes with us. Most of the people who come know me, but not all of them. A lot have had no connection with me in the past. They might know a friend of a friend, or they might have heard me or watched my podcast, or they might know be in a church of a pastor I know or whatever. You don't have to know me to come on the tour, but I will say this: you'll be friends with us by the end of the first or second day, I think, if you do come, because we are very relational. Matt was saying, we're the last ones to leave dinner because we enjoy one another. No, you don't have to. You can, eat as fast as you want, but we enjoy, and our group is alive. That's it. Our group has always been alive. You'll notice also the size. I had a friend once who came with us, and he told me he'd gone before to Israel with a well-known celebrity Bible teacher, but I believe he said there were like 6 bus loads or 600 people. I know some people have had tours as much as 600 people. Well, if you got 600 people, you're going to spend a lot of time getting on the bus, off the bus, get to a location. Don't expect to speak much or sit down and have dinner with the tour leader or something like that. We keep our tours to 1 bus max because we want to get to know one another. We want it to be relational. We want to have fun together. We want to grow together. We want to worship together, learn together. And we want to keep our group small enough that we can move from place to place without having to spend half of our time just getting on and off buses and getting to the right spot. So we got a good group. I would love it if you were a part of it. You're welcome to be a part of it. And I would invite you to that. Might add, Matt would probably add this. We always ride a luxury bus, air conditioned. There's Wi-Fi on the bus. There's a way to connect back home if you want to through the Wi-Fi in the hotels. The Wi-Fi on the buses enable you to be, Googling or chatting or texting or whatever you do back home with those with that. Well, I don't know, Matt. A question that is the big question of the time now, and it has been. I alluded to it earlier that Roz and I hesitated going to Israel for years before we finally went, and that is it safe? And of course, as we know, Israel's been at war the last couple of years, and we've uh, postponed two of our trips for that reason. And some of it's been, it's been intense. It's been on edge. The tourism has suffered greatly because of it. But recently, the word is out that, as we're cutting this, by the way, there have been some peace treaties signed, some ceasefires have happened. The word is getting out that the tourism ministry in Israel are contacting their guides and saying, we believe things are opening back up. Flights will be happening. The sites will all be open. They're still, we're not quite there yet, but it is opening back up. And we anticipate very soon that all the situations that will make it as safe as can be. Uh, all that being said, Matt, comments you have about traveling to Israel, and is it a safe experience for us?
Safe as houses, as the idiom goes. Tom, Janine, and I love how you put it. We share it with many people. You're retired, you have some discretionary time, you're a student between semesters, you want to go to Israel, and then you say, I'm not going. I have a TV. I have the news. The media told me Israel is unsafe. And then 10 years later, when your friends pester you, you go. And then you say, why didn't I go 10 years ago, 15 years ago? There's a media myth, and people from other countries are afraid to come here. They think America's the Wild West because the media never says, last night in New York, 8 million people slept in their beds, everything was fine. And we don't want to under-inform people or dismiss something. But why is Israel so safe? It's something that we ponder. We talked about a lot. Tom, less than 0.5% of Americans are on active military duty. The number per capita in Israel is 17 or 18 times higher. Why? The young men are compulsory to serve 4 years in the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. The young ladies serve 2 years, but they love it. It's their Cub Scouts, their Eagle Scouts, their civic and patriotic duty. And the same way, Tom, that you'll take 50 or 100 people to the Kentucky Ark Encounter or the Creation Museum and show them the wonders of creation, the Israel Defense Forces takes their young people to Bible sites. So we're on tour, and every year we see 100 young people wearing uniforms, and they have weapons, and they're fellowshipping, and they're smiling, and they're hugging each other, and they're in tears looking at these Bible sites. You are so safe that if we asked everybody on the tour, the first timers, the ones who hadn't been, were you apprehensive about coming to Israel this year? Every hand would go up. And then if you said, who feels safe on day one? Every hand would go up. And what happened in Gaza was horrible. The people in Gaza broke out a few miles into Israel. There were atrocities. And then Israel brought the water Gaza, and they fixed the fence. They have the military there. Nothing's been happening in Israel. If the Canadians invaded northern Maine, I wouldn't say don't come to Florida. And what I'm talking about, as you know, Tom, is that the bus we're on is never going to go within 50 miles of Gaza. No tour buses have gone within 50 miles of Gaza since 07, 08, 2008, when they became self-determinant because they were harboring terrorists. So we would never take a risk and put you somewhere unsafe. But for the last 30 years, including the war, even especially during the war, because everyone has eyes in the back of their heads, Israel is safer to visit statistically than Cleveland or Des Moines or New York or Chicago. There haven't been any major tourist incidents in Israel for decades. Tel Aviv is the safest airport in the world. I could go on, but I feel safe there. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be there with my wife or invite my friends and family. A lot of my friends and family go on the tours. We want you to feel safe. And so now is a great time to be thinking about flights and time off work and what can I do? Can I go? Will I go? Because if we're flying in February, you want to get your tickets pretty soon. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be fine.
Yeah. I will stress that Israel is very concerned about tourists. Tourists are safe. The people who don't like Israel, the people of Israel, their enemies, they don't come after tourists. They come after the people who live in Israel. And the authorities are in they have constant ability to alert all tour guides, all bus drivers, if there's any danger anywhere ever, to alert them to immediately to avoid that. We've never had that occasion happen. I don't expect that to happen. You mentioned about how people are afraid to come to America. I've taken 10 mission trips to India. I remember one time I was talking with some young people, and we got to talk about guns. They were shocked. They were literally shocked that I told them I've never seen someone in America shoot somebody else. They assumed literally that every time we go to work every day, we have to duck bullets. and because that's all they've seen in our movies, and that's the narrative. And so we know that's not like that here in the United States, and likewise in India, excuse me, in Israel, it is a lot safer. And once you go, you'll probably sense that. That being said,
Hmm.
if there's a war and if there's rockets being fired and something like that, we, we won't go. We're not going to put all of us at risk to do that. But we have good reason to believe that the hostilities of the last 2 years are calming down. They're going to be calmed down, and we will be able to travel to Israel safely and securely. We need to be beginning to make plans now. This trip, I think, especially because we haven't gone the last couple of years, I think there's a pent up demand. I think it will fill up quickly. So we need to be making our plans and so forth. But we will, by the time we make the final go and our final reservations, I think we're going to have great confidence that these hostilities have simmered down significantly, and we'll be safe to do so. Um, Matt, people want to go. What do they do? Where do they go? What do they do? What next steps should a person take if they are interested?
It's so easy. TomThePreacher.com has an Israel button right at the top of the page. You hit that, you're going to get a video, you're going to get our itinerary, our frequently asked questions, our prices, dates, and times, and there's a button there that says interested. Click that. It takes 30 seconds to fill out the form. Tom, you and I will answer every question. We crave those questions. We refine the tour with those questions. So TomThePreacher.com, hit Israel, learn more about the tour, hit the interested button. It's not a commitment, but we'll keep you in the loop because as you said, if our early bird payment date is say August 15, we think we actually might have a sold out bus, a sold out tour by August 15. That wouldn't shock me at all because as you said, people want to go and it is very safe. And so we're having a great time. And the real questions are, can I go? Will I go?
Now,
Talking to a boss.
some people go as a group, and you might
Yeah.
want, if you're a pastor in particular, contact us. If you're interested in bringing a group from your church, we do offer a way that you can uh, go there without, well, basically it's for free, if I'm not mistaken, Matt. And we offer that. That's one way we help market. Of course, we have to have a certain number so that to make this trip worthwhile for us. I think we offer a great trip, and I think we offer a very reasonable price. There might be some trips that are cheaper. There's a lot that are a lot more expensive. I think what you'll get your money's worth as much as any other trip you could do here. But it is an investment, and because of that, because I realize, boy, if I were to go on a trip like this and put out money like this, I'd want to get the best I could get. That's our desire and commitment to give that to you. And we feel good about having done that. So, tomthepreacher.com, click the Israel link in the top right corner, read more information, fill out the form for more information. This is not a commitment. This is just saying, keep me in the loop. You want to know more, ask us your questions, we'll answer them. But we are now accepting registrations and deposits for our trip in February of 2026. Matt, I'm not mistaken, February 11th through 21. Is that correct?
It's like the 11th through the 19th. You're going to fly from the USA or Canada on Tuesday, land on Wednesday, and come home the following Friday. And you have the
Okay.
whole weekend to get ready for Monday. And we have add-ons and surprises for you when you register too. We want to serve you in every way possible.
All right. I hope we've answered some of your questions. I hope we've inspired you, encouraged you. I hope that this is something you will prayerfully consider. If you are able, I think I'll tell you this. I've been to Disney World. You're going to get a lot better trip here than if you're thinking of Disney or somewhere comparable. So glad to have you along. And we pray for peace in the Middle East, and we pray for you, and we pray that each one of us will be disciples of Jesus Christ. This is, again, I stress, this trip, Lord willing, you will come back. We want you to come with a good heart, a hungry heart, a teachable heart. You'll come back with more than just knowing about the geography and the information in that sense, and the archaeology and the history. You'll come back, I hope, I believe, with a heart on fire for the Lord as we study the life of Jesus Christ, and we want to give you that as a gift, as a blessing. It's so exciting. At this stage of my life, to be real honest, one of the most exciting things I do is say, Lord, you've given me so much. I want to pass it on to others. And a trip like this gives me a lot of opportunity to pass on gems and messages and things that God has put on my heart that I want to see others have as disciples of Jesus Christ. So I hope you can, if it's any way possible, I hope you can join us. And I go to the tomthepreacher.com, click on the Israel link, fill that out, get in the loop, and let's see if we can make this happen. Okay? Matt, thank you for joining me. And we will look forward to seeing you all again sometime soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Hey, you really need to come to Israel. We have waited after almost 58 years of marriage to make this trip. It was wonderful. The Bible comes alive to you in ways you never would have thought. You just really need to pull things together and come to Israel.
And we went on the Tom Short Campus Ministry Israeli tour. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to give you a spoiler alert, but this was one of the best trips we had in our lifetime. I would give it a 5-star. We've been on some great vacations, but this one beats them all.
This is my second time to Israel, and it was very intense. We learned a lot. We covered a lot of territory, and Tom and Matt, our drivers, and our tour director did a fabulous job. So if you stay home, you're missing out on the trip of a lifetime. Go to Israel with Tom.
This is my third trip to Israel, and I have to tell you guys that I had never experienced so much spiritually, geographically, and historically as I have with our group. I actually encourage you guys to come and visit Israel with this group. Bye-bye.